Guys, follow the new Sam's Oxford Studies Instagram. A few posts on there, but equally DM me about anything and I'll reply, how you're feeling for Oxford Results Day, what to expect, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, on to the video. This video is going to be very informational. We're going to go through all the possible outcomes and how to prepare for each of them. And there are actually 5 different types of acceptances, which will vary slightly. So it's not as simple as just being accepted or being rejected. I had 2 Oxford offer days. The first time I applied, I was rejected. And then I decided to take a year out to reapply. On my second Oxford offer day, I was accepted. So I've experienced both types. I've done the day twice, so let's talk about it. I think there are 5 different offers, or 5 different ways you can be given a place that you can prepare for. The first one will be the one that you guys are probably all thinking of, which is you get an offer and it says you've got the course you wanted at the college you wanted, which is exactly what you put down in a UCAS form, exactly what you applied for, and there it is. And that is definitely the best case scenario. Alternatively, if you got moved around before interviews, so you applied for maybe Brasenose, but you got moved to Trinity before your interviews, then that would be the equivalent of getting your place at Trinity. And the same goes for an open application. If you didn't specify college and then were given Trinity at interviews, then you would get in for Trinity. And even if you had interviews at 2 different colleges, as is the case for many subjects, not actually something that happened to me, but I think it's maybe quite a STEMmy or a sciencey thing, you should still know which one your primary college is, because I guess that would be the one that would be writing to you the whole time. But anyway, that is the first option, which probably is the majority, but only just about, of people that get offers for their course at their preferred first choice college. The next 3 options, which I'm going to call options 2, 3 and 4, are linked, but it's when you get given a place for your desired course, but not at your own college. And let's talk about the option 2, which is being pooled. That is when, quite simply, you applied for one college and maybe you interviewed at that college, but the college which gives you an offer is a completely separate college. For those who don't know, the colleges all do look at their admissions separately. So the Brasenose chemists will be completely separate to the Trinity chemists. But for whatever reason, let's say Brasenose has 7 superb chemists applying there, all that really deserve Oxford places, but they only have literal room for 6 chemists in that year group. And Trinity, on the other hand, which would normally have 4 chemists, this year only has 3 really good applicants, and they don't really have anyone else that they want to fill that 4th spot. What would happen is Brasenose and all the other colleges that have kind of applicants that are good enough for a place there, but they don't quite have space at that specific college, would put these applicants into the pool. And the pool is this kind of centralised group of Oxford ready and Oxford level people that didn't have space at their original college, and other colleges can kind of look at the pool and pick specific people from it. And so this phenomenon is called being pooled. So that is quite common, and it's said that 1/3 of applicants who get places at Oxford are pooled in some regard, or don't go into the college they chose or they originally applied for. Maybe you cared about your college, maybe you kind of just chose one. This is not a big deal. If you get a college, after 2 weeks, it doesn't make a difference. You'll probably feel very at home there. People don't ask or don't care, or maybe only joke and jest about, oh, you didn't apply to us, you must not want to be here. Your friends, I mean, not the tutors or anything like that. So we know some people in Trinity who applied to other colleges, but it doesn't make at all any difference, and no one really cares. So this is the first example of this kind of pooling idea, you being sent from one college into a different college. Option 3 is similar. It's that same idea of you applied for one college and you are good enough, but for whatever reason they don't have space for you at your subject at your college. But what Oxford can do is give you what's called an open offer, which basically means we will guarantee you a place, we want you in our department, but we don't have space at this college, the one you applied for, and we don't quite know which college we're going to fit you in at, but we will find you a college. I think this is definitely rarer, and most of the time it would fit into that second option of the 5 we're going to talk about, which is they specify when you get your offer which college you will be going to. But it's definitely possible for these open offers to come about, and that's kind of annoying maybe because people are creating college group chats and you don't quite know which college you're ending up at yet. But if Oxford give you this, you can guarantee that you will be, providing you meet your grades, given an offer at Oxford University, at some college I guess they'll pick for you in the future when they know how many people are firming it at that college and how many people hit their grades. And I think you only find out on results day. Maybe it's a case that you can find out in a few months once they just work things out. I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. But if you get that, I'm sure there'll be plenty of paperwork explaining exactly what an open offer is for you. Some people like these group chat kind of idea, some people aren't fussed about it at all. Maybe you guys watching this video would be more inclined to be active on the group chats. I get that kind of vibe from people who watch these kind of videos, maybe the same types of people that would enjoy the group chats, speaking to other people before you go. But there are plenty of people who join the group chats, don't open it, don't look at it, And there are also plenty of people who don't know about the group chats until they go. And honestly, after 1 hour of being there, it makes no difference. All these friendships that are formed in advance and you feel like you're getting left behind because you're not on that group chat that they're talking on every day, completely overrated. You're not missing out at all. You'll go there and meet people and it'll be absolutely fine. We had a few cases of people being very active on the group chat, and people would introduce themselves in a Freshers Week and they would be like, oh, I remember you were always on the group chat. So that was maybe nice for them. They got a bit of a nice reputation before going and people would recognise them, or at least their name once they said it, but it's not a problem at all. And so this also really no issue. So there we go. That's the second kind of pooling option. And the third one, which is option number 4 of the 5 things that can happen, is when you are pooled, but not to a college, to a permanent private hall. What is a permanent private hall? For all intents and purposes, it kind of functions as a college. So it's very similar to that second example we talked about, which is being pooled to another college. But these halls are different in the sense that they don't necessarily look like colleges. They don't necessarily have common rooms and dining halls and all that stuff that makes an Oxford college a college. And they're often quite smaller and only offer specific courses. Subjects that would definitely be offered at a PPH is stuff like theology, classics, maybe philosophy as well. It tends not to really be the STEM subject, so if you're a STEM student, I don't think this applies to you. But this PPH is technically also run by monks, as it were. But I don't think that should make too much of a difference, and it's not necessarily at all just for people who are of a certain religious denomination. And the PPH does not discriminate or mind at all, or want you to be religious or to partake in any religious practices. I haven't actually visited a permanent private hall yet, but in my head, it kind of is like a halls of residence. You definitely get a room at this PPH. There's definitely a place for you to be able to eat. Depending on the one you end up at, and there are about 6, they might do different things for formals. So that's the formal dinners that you might have seen in some of my videos, where you go into the hall and you're served this nicer than normal food, and you have to wear your gowns and stuff like that. Some of these PPHs might be able to sort that out, some won't have that. And by all accounts, because I do know some people at PPHs, to be honest, it does maybe affect your Oxford lifestyle experience quite a bit. Because whilst in other places you have this lovely Oxford College, which is one big reason why a lot of people apply there, you get to use all the facilities, the lovely library and stuff like that. At these PPHs, it might feel like you're kind of just living in a house your whole way through. You don't feel like you're really living the Oxford student life. You don't feel like you're living that kind of Oxford core or quintessentially Oxford student experience in your college. But I'm sure there are plenty of upsides as well. I think the communities inside the PPH are often closer because they have to really make that effort. And to be honest, I don't know too much about it. They can't be that different to colleges, just like one's called St Hugh's and St Hilda's, these are colleges. There's one that's called St Benet's, which is a PPH. You might just go to Oxford and you say, I'm at St Benet's, and everyone goes, what? I haven't heard of that college. And you have to be like, oh, it's a PPH. Or you can just be like, yeah, it's a college that's just very rare. I actually met some people from one of the PPHs, and they came round to visit Trinity. I sort of took them round for a tour, and as we were going around Trinity, they told me, oh, actually we applied to Trinity, and then we got put in this PPH. And there was a few of them. It was very weird. It wasn't just one. There were a few of them, all from Trinity, all to the same PPH. But I don't know. They speak very highly about their PPH. Probably once you're there, you're just used to it. And some people probably don't care at all, and they go there and completely happy, and never second thought about it. But I also know some people who are considering either going to a different university, the one that fussed on Oxford in the first place, or trying to reapply and get in. But there's actually a 5th option as well, which I guess is for when you are given your college, but a slightly different course. And you might be thinking, what the hell is this all about? You have to apply so rigorously for one specific Oxford course, and in your personal statement be so specific about it, in your interviews be given questions by professors in your exact subjects, and now suddenly they're swapping you around. It's not quite like that, where you apply for chemistry and get given a place for physics. But often, if you apply for a joint schools course, for example, classics and English, if there was one part of your application which was completely up to scratch, really strong, let's say the classics for example, but then when it came to your English interview or your English admissions test or that other part of your joint application, that wasn't necessarily what Oxford were quite looking for or quite hoping for, they could offer you a place for just one of your subjects. So you apply for classics and English at a college, and that college offers you just the place for classics, or potentially just the place for English. You would know in advance if this would apply to your course, because there's a box you have to tick as well, which says, if I don't get given a place for this course, am I happy to be given a place or an offer of a place for one specific part of that joint schools? So I remember when I was applying for classics, at some point
I had to do this questionnaire, which was exactly which classics course I'm applying for. In my case, it was a course where I've done Greek and I haven't done Latin to A-level, and they would work stuff out. But there were definitely options for classics and English, classics and modern languages, classics and Oriental studies. All of these kind of things where there was a question for those guys, would you like to be considered for a single school offer? There's one more thing to talk about in this section. You may be given an offer for any of the above with some certain conditional requirements. I guess everyone gets that because everyone has to hit certain grades, unless you have an unconditional offer because you already have your A-level grades. What I'm talking about is being offered a place on the condition that you attend a summer school, for example, Opportunity Oxford. Opportunity Oxford, which people in Oxford, once they're up there, call OPOX, is a programme for people that Oxford think would benefit from being on as kind of a bridging course or a bridging programme between secondary school and school stuff and Oxford as a university kind of course. And that's mostly for people from certain socioeconomic backgrounds, or maybe their school was of a certain requirements that fits the students from that school with Oxford offers being offered places on the OPOX course. But the idea is Oxford, of course, really think you're a superb applicant, or they wouldn't have given you a place, but they think you would benefit from this kind of bridging course just to maybe ease the transition or teach you some stuff on the course or whatever it is. But I've only heard good things about OPOX. People meet friends there, and actually it's very funny because some of the schools that you imagine loads of kids come from, like Westminster for example, know loads of people around Oxford, but at the same time people from the OPOX course, which, as I've said, one thing is for maybe not many people in your school or your area or whatever it is get into Oxford, now suddenly go into Oxford knowing loads of people. From a social aspect, you know, in Freshers Week in Oxford, it's like they've gone to one of these schools like Westminster. But anyway, I find that very funny in my head. But by all accounts, OPOX is a great programme, and so that might be one of the extra conditions that you're offered as well as your grades. So there we go, that is kind of what to prepare for. Whatever your outcome is, you'll either unfortunately not have got an offer, or it would have been one of these things that we've just talked about. And if you're unfortunate to not get an offer, your UCAS will update and it will say, you know, offer not received by Oxford. And you'll probably get an email from the college or from the department or from Oxford at some point saying something along the lines of, we're very sorry, you have not been offered a place. It was particularly competitive this year, lots of great applicants. We know you'll probably be very upset. Please try not to tie your personal worth into this. And they also added on the end that they often see people who are rejected later on, whether that be for masters or I guess in my case, I reapplied. So those are all the options. Let's actually talk about how to prepare. I'm not going to say unrealistic and stupid stuff like don't stress, calm yourselves down, because I've done the day twice. I know how it is. That's literally impossible. You would have all have spent so long on your applications, and you're clearly really invested if you're watching videos like this, to this point in the video as well. That's just not going to happen. But work out what calms you down and what would work for you. I'll tell you what I did. I phoned a friend for a really long time the night before, just talking about other stuff, but I just felt that would distract me and I would have someone that I've been the whole of the way through school with on this day where it was kind of coming to a close, because I was on my gap year, so I now would know kind of if I was going to go to this university after the end of the whole school process. And on that note, because I was on my gap year, I decided that I would kind of have TV on the background as I'm refreshing it, because I thought that would help in my head. I wasn't fully focused on the results, just keep on refreshing it. I had something else, which in my head I could pretend was a distraction, and so it would just calm me down a bit. About this time, another thing I did in the kind of few days before Oxford was write down a reason of all the disadvantages or the negatives of going to Oxford, and to be honest, I got quite a long list. And I was telling myself, you know, there are so many good reasons not to go to Oxford. It would almost be a blessing if I didn't go, you know, whether that be the workload was very intense, it's not really a representative uni experience, I would maybe feel less anxious or stressed doing another course somewhere else, and then that can, you know, help me remember at the same time that there are loads of positives of all my other options, and then you could feel a bit more balanced on the day depending on the outcome. And if I were to offer one kind of motivational piece of advice, it would be don't overthink it, for the reason that the result is kind of out there in the world. 24 hours or a week before, Oxford knows if you've got your place and everything's sorted. It's just that you don't know it yourself. So sometimes I get stressed when I think I can still change things. Whether that's the night before an exam, I think, you know, my routines can still affect it. I would definitely understand being nervous before interviews for the same reason. But for this, I know it is stressful, but literally nothing you can do will change it. All that's going to happen is now the result, which is out there, and already, you know, Oxford are working on which room you're going to be in if you accept it, or they know that you haven't been given an offer or whatever it is. All that's left to do is for you to be privy to that information. And so I tried to reinforce that in my head that, like, you know, the decision has already been made. So why am I stressing out that something that literally already exists? And depending on which one of these 5 offers you get, even if it is number one, the absolute best case scenario, which is you get exactly what you applied for, you should still consider whether the Oxford offer is right for you to firm on your UCAS. You should not feel pressure from parents, teachers, yourself, maybe even friends who weren't lucky enough to get an offer, that for you, you have to now take your offer or firm it or put it first choice on your UCAS. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for yourself, and Oxford has lots of positives, but also has plenty of negatives, just like any university place. But I don't think that will apply to too many of you. You've worked so hard to get a place, you absolutely deserve it. You should not be intimidated or feel too much imposter syndrome. And if you do, make sure you know that it's an intrusive thought and it's not true. You deserve your place, and I would encourage you absolutely to accept your offer. But look, other people want to think about it as little as possible, so maybe overthinking all these things that I try to do to calm me down, it's better just to completely switch off. Try and find what works for you. I've given some of the things I've done. Take the good bits, leave the bad bits. It's just my personal opinion, everyone's different. That's the end of part 1 to the videos that will go across the next week or so about Oxford Offer Day. Like I say, if you haven't and you want to see part 2, please do subscribe, because that will be about all the emotional side on the day, how to go through it, and maybe I'll make a part 3 as well if this is popular, about exactly how to process it, maybe a few days after you've got your result either way. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments. I reply to all of them. I wish each and every one of you authentically all the best, and whatever happens will work out for the best as well. I promise you that, as someone who was rejected the first time, it will all work out okay. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.